Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel after that brief false start. This is our spoiler talk / general review for the new Amazon Prime series, The Boys.
The boys.
Yep, obviously alongside with me is Dan McCann, you may know him if you saw my Spider-Man Far From Home spoiler talk. Say hello, Hoss.
Hello, everyone. I am here to fanboy about a certain actor for the next hour or so.
Yes. The Boys is a new series on Amazon Prime. Like I said, this is based on the comic series of the same name. This focuses on a vigilante group who are living in a world where supers are ran by a corporation, and they realize that these supers are just incredibly awful and terrible people, so they set out to take them down, as they all have kind of their own motivations for doing so. Now, you actually were the one who turned me onto the show. I didn't know about it before. But I mean, I've known about it for a while now, and I've been excited about it for a long time. And the main reason why I was excited about it, as for you as well, is that this is the first time in a while that we've seen our boy Anthony Starr in a role. Anthony Starr is the lead actor of a show called Banshee, which is one of mine and Dan's favourite shows. I'll let you sort of talk about Anthony for a bit, because obviously you're a bit more connected than me.
Yeah, so Anthony Starr, he was the lead. He played the lead character in a show called Banshee, which is my second favorite show of all time behind Breaking Bad. It means a lot to me, and
for me, it's the best show I've ever seen.
Yeah, I absolutely loved Banshee, and then when it ended, I was kind of really excited for what he'd get for roles wise. He did like a TV show afterwards. They got cancelled after one season, and then like for 3 years, he's been in absolutely nothing, and I was just sat there crying. And I think it was about this time last year when it was announced he was in The Boys. So I remember I messaged you about it, and I was like completely losing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I heard he was in this, I was like, yeah, I'm watching this regardless. I don't care how bad it is. I'm watching it because he is that good. Like he's such an underrated actor. He is so
really
good.
is.
But then it wasn't just that really like got me onto this show as well. It was, everything else about it. The fact that it was based off the comic book series, the fact that it would kind of be this, I guess, ironic take on superheroes, especially in this medium now where we have so many superhero films and it's so integral into film, and also all the other actors involved as well, like Carl Urban, really gives 100% in everything, and just everything about it just seemed as if it had something to just be really, really great. So it already had me engaged like from the very start, but then you bring in Anthony Starr and it's, it kind of brings it up to a different level for me personally. I'm probably like one of 5% of people who actually like gave a shit about Anthony Starr being in this before the show came out.
Yeah, we were one of the few. I mean, I was really excited about this because, like you say, in this current medium, in this current oversaturation in the superhero genre, it really takes something bold to stand out in this genre, and The Boys completely stood out to me way before the show even launched. I remember when they released a trailer about 2-3 weeks before the show launched, and the one with the Spice Girls song.
Yeah.
And with that, I was like, after I saw that trailer, I was so convinced. I was like, this is going to be great. Because, I've been trying to cut down on superhero shows recently because I watched so many of them. And luckily, Marvel and Netflix made that kind of easy for me. As sad as that makes me to say, because I love the Marvel Netflix shows.
Iron Fist season 3. I still salty over that.
I mean, I actually met Finn Jones a couple of weeks ago. He told me that apparently the reason why they were cancelled was because Marvel and Netflix fell out. That's what he said to me. I don't know if that's just what he knows or he's lying to me. I don't know. That's what Finn Jones, Iron Fist himself, said to me. So if you're wondering, there you go. I didn't even ask him about it. I literally just said, "Oh, I'm sorry about Iron Fist." He was like, "Oh, it's all right, man." And then he just like leaned back and he went, "Well, Marvel Netflix fell out." And I was like, he literally just said it, and I was like, "Oh well, cheers, Finn. I didn't ask, but I'm glad to know." Can I just say, Finn Jones is an absolute lad. I love him. So anyway, back to The Boys. I was so looking forward to this, again, mainly because of Anthony Starr. I love him in Banshee as Lucas Hood. He's incredible in that show. And like I say, like as you said, even if the show wasn't that good, I was going to watch it regardless just because it was him. But luckily, this show is amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, I know it's the same for you. This is the best show of 2019 so far. It's just fantastic. I was blown away by it. And I think the biggest credit, before we really dive into the review, the best credit I can give this, like if you want to switch off of the video now, the best credit I can give to this is I am terrible at watching TV. Especially like these days with the limited time I have, I take ages to get through them. I can only ever watch like one episode maybe every couple of days. That's what I'm normally like. This show, I finished it in 2 days. I did 4 episodes on one night and the next 4 the next. That's basically a binge for me. So the fact that the show was able to grab me like that and make me binge it, and I got so hooked on it, I just got hooked in the story and the world, the characters. I think that's the biggest ringing endorsement that I can give The Boys.
Yeah. I mean, it does help us. It does help as well with the fact that it's only 8 episodes long, or each an hour long, and it has that perfect length to it because it's not too long where it feels like it's dragging stuff out in the middle section, and it doesn't feel like it's rushing at anything. It just had that perfect length to it, which I really liked because I didn't know the episode count going in. I don't know why, but I thought in the back of my head that it was 13. So when I saw it was 8, when I loaded it up for the first time, I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
they're not going to do the Netflix. Yeah.
8's a nice number. Amazon tends to stick to lower numbers, which I like. I remember like Jack Ryan last year was 8 episodes as well. I did the exact same thing with Jack Ryan, actually. I did 4 episodes one night, 4 episodes the next. So yeah, clearly Amazon are doing something good for me. I just said to you before we started recording, I want to check out Good Omens. I want to see what that's like. But anyway, let's sort of dive into it. So I think a good place to start is obviously just like the story. This being an ironic take on the superhero genre, this movie, the show, doesn't focus on the superheroes. The superheroes are in fact almost the villains of this show. And the boys, who would typically be villainous or, antagonizing characters, are our leads here. Now, what I like about that is that every character in this show, there's not one really, except for maybe Starlight, who's likable.
Yeah, Starlight's probably the only exception you could say who's like actually a good person.
Yeah, the rest of them, even Huey does some questionable things in this show, are kind of evil people. Oh, and Simon Pegg, he's lovely. But did you think that was a weird cameo? I didn't know he was in it. So like when I saw Simon Pegg there,
I knew he was in because the character of Huey in the comics is modeled after Simon Pegg.
Yeah, I read that.
Which is why they brought him on.
Yeah, his American accent was a bit, but whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's Simon Pegg.
It's Simon Pegg, and I appreciated his presence. It was just kind of like in Hobbs and Shaw recently, where there's like a couple of cameos in it, where it just kind of like I was like, whoa. But it's not even like Simon Pegg was a cameo. He actually has like a decent role.
Yeah.
Not a huge role, but a decent role. But anyway, yeah, all the characters in this are so just in a grey area, again, except for maybe Starlight, that it's kind of difficult to, root for any of them at times, which I actually think is a very good thing.
Yeah.
I like that about this. I like the fact that everyone is basically a shitty person in this.
Yeah.
I mean, I do find myself rooting for Huey in this, especially because he's kind of the relatable one. He's the sympathetic character. He's the one who he's kind of the main character, really. You see exactly what happens to him. You get his motivation from the beginning, literally from the opening scene. That opening scene is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been saying this to people who have been asking me about the show, and when I've been telling people about the show, if you think the opening scene of this, and I'm talking about Robin's death, if you look at that scene and if you find that funny, you are on board with this show.
Yeah.
If you're repulsed by it and you think it's too violent, you will not like this. You will not like it because I love how the show opens because it's literally a perfect setup for the entire show. It sets you up for it and it gives you a perfect taster. If you like it, you'll be great. If you don't like it, you won't like the show. It's as simple as that. So I'm gonna say to you, if you've not seen this, I mean, I'm hoping you have seen this if you were watching a spoiler talk. But if you haven't seen it, if you watch that opening scene, that will give you a perfect, idea of whether or not you should continue. But yeah, I think the story was just really cool. Like the idea of, these superheroes being controlled by a corporation is very, very reminiscent and timely to today's kind of structure. I think that, using superheroes, these people who have these powers and they're using the powers for their own kind of motivations.
Yeah.
And, some of them are using it just purely to make their brands bigger. Like it's all about branding. They have their own movies and things like that. There's even like a cinematic universe joke in this, which I thought was funny.
The fourth MCU. Because they have that scene, don't they, where you have Seth Rogen making his little cameo where he's talking about what the Vought cinematic universe. I love that so much. Like they had so many random cameos on this as well because they had him, you had Jimmy Fallon appearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy Zane, like Tara Reid. What are these doing here?
Yeah, because there's like a scene where they all go to a convention, like Comic-Con, and I was just like, I saw like Billy Zane and Tara Reid. I was like, what? But yeah, it's a great story, and especially just seeing like the soups in this as well. Like the soups are really funny. We'll dive into them, but yeah, just a very interesting story, very different, and again, just kind of very reflective of today's kind of society and superhero society in like the Hollywood kind of setup. So I think that's really cool.
Because it very much paints it as if how superheroes would be today, because obviously you always have them in these films where they're like kind of shown as these people who, you know, are just doing things for the good of mankind. But on here, it's just like, nah, we just need them extra followers. And like you have these people who are dressed as heroes, yet they never actually do anything properly heroic because it's all staged. And as you'll see in one of the best moments of the entire show, when they actually have to do something heroic, they horrifically fuck up.
Yeah,
which is I just find really, really interesting. You know,
that's
the fact
that's
that they
one of
are
the best scenes in the entire.
Yeah,
show.
we'll talk about that later because it is
a
brilliant scene.
It's fantastic. But let's dive into the characters then. So the boys themselves, we have a group of 5 of them.
Who are not all boys, we should point out.
Who are not all boys. So you have obviously Carl Urban, you've got Jack Quaid, and then you've got Frenchie, Mother's Milk, and the female.
You've just listed off 2 actors' names and 3 characters.
Billy Butcher, Huey, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and the female. There we go. Now, I thought all of these characters were great. I don't think there's a weak link among them.
No.
Each one stands out in their own unique way. Each of them has a different personality. Like, Carl Urban is brilliant in this.
Yeah.
His portrayal of Billy Butcher. The British accent is something I didn't... You said this in your review. This is not something I knew I needed. Like,
no.
It's so funny. Like, the way he plays it. And I was thinking, when we... Because me and Dan have both met Carl Urban. When we met him at Wales Comic Con, he looked exactly the same as he does in the show. Was he filming that around this time? He must have been.
I think from what I remember, they were nearing the end of filming when we saw him at Wales Comic Con.
Yeah, because he looks exactly the same. You know, I was looking at the photo we have of him, and he looks exactly the same. But my God, his performance is funny. Like,
he gets so many funny jokes in this as well.
So many good lines.
His comedic timing is so brilliant, and I didn't think that would be the case because obviously, you know, he'd done it sort of beforehand in the Star Trek films, but this is on like a whole nother level. Like the amount of great lines, like his fucking diabolical line. Oh my God.
It's the Britishness of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's the fact that obviously we're Brits, and I find British humor very, very funny. So, you know, the fact that he was so British in this made me laugh. Like, it's the scene when, you know, they've all been compromised, they're all waiting in the house, and it's like they're all waiting for someone to like just show up, and then he calls, you know, the FBI agent, and they all show up at the house, and then everyone pulls their guns out, and he's just sat at the back reading a paper going, everybody fucking calm down. Because he knows exactly what's going on, no one else does, and he's just like, everyone, you calm down. Like, really funny. He gets just so many good lines, because he's so relaxed out the entire show as well.
Yeah.
And he's just so laid back about it. It's absolutely just so funny. And just the character of Billy Butcher I really enjoyed overall.
I really like him as well because he's 100% an anti-hero. He is not like your typical protagonist. Like, he brutally kills people. There's a scene in this where he kills Haley Joel Osment, and I'm like, all right, man, that's why you crossed the line here.
Yeah. I didn't know Haley Joel Osment was in this. When I saw him, I was like...
neither did I. And then when I saw him like smacking his head against the side of that sink, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's just like, you get moments like that, and that's what I mean. None of these characters are particularly likable or, you know, good in any way. So when you see like Carl, you know, Billy Butcher is one of the worst, really. He's just like, he's murderous. He's pretty bloodthirsty a lot of the time. Obviously, he's got a big beef with Homelander, Anthony Starr. And I think like his backstory, you know, because you do kind of see bits of it. I think it's interesting, you know, the fact that he always imagined his wife being the victim.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that when you actually see the security footage, it's kind of like, oh no, she was actually a bit more unfaithful than a victim. I thought that was interesting, and obviously that does lead into the cliffhanger of the season, which the cliffhanger is pretty amazing.
But I like how they played it very ambiguously, where
you
can sort of relate with him in terms of his shock and his reaction to it and his motivations for what he does, but at the same time, they also plant that seeds of doubt in there as well. Which I just think is really cool. Like, again, they'll probably explore that in season 2, but like I just really liked how he had this whole crusade that he was on, you know, to avenge what Homelander did to his wife, and then to basically have him be completely slapped in the face at the end, you know, with him realizing that in a way it was kind of all for nothing.
Yeah.
But it was just so interesting to watch his character and like his moral codes and, you what he's willing to do, and like his whole viewpoint on superheroes as well. Like that, it was just such a cool protagonist because even though he did incredibly questionable stuff, you understood why he did it. And for me, that's what has to work about a character like this. Because if you're going to make your protagonist a dickhead, he has to be somebody that you still must root for.
And I think you totally do with this. And I think that's really cool. Now, Jack Quaid plays Huey, who's kind of like I said, he's kind of like the main center protagonist. Now, I've never seen Jack Quaid before. I knew he was the son of Dennis Quaid. But I'd never seen him before. I loved him. He was so really likable. Good. Like he was really like attainable. You were able to watch him and just really get into his performance. I thought he was great as Huey. And again, I think he really sold like, because he's literally just like in shock the entire time. Like there's a great line where he says, I've gone however many years in my life without seeing someone get shot, and in the space of a week I've seen about 50. Like like really good lines like that where he's like, he's just like he's completely just taken by Karl Urban, chucked into this world, and now he's just seeing all this stuff. It's really quite interesting. And I thought that his performance really sold that. And also, I really liked, actually, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this going in, but I really enjoyed, actually, the romance between him and Starlight. Because it wasn't like this thing where, because even in the show, they kind of play on it a bit where you kind of think, oh, is he just kind of sponging off of Starlight? But then you remember, like, he met her before she was even Starlight. And you kind of buy that, and I think that's really interesting, and it was a good romance. Again, I didn't think I was going to like it that much, but it was actually really well handled. And I like how it wasn't so kind of black and white like I thought it was maybe going to be. But I guess with the show, you should not expect black and white.
No.
But yeah, I really like Jack Quaid here.
Yeah, he was really good. Like, very surprising because, like, same with you, I didn't really recall seeing him in anything else, so this was kind of like my first taste of what he is as an actor. He was really good. Like his emotional stuff was really good. The scenes with him basically going on a complete frenzy. Because when he's having like his panic attacks, he was just so good. And he was given a lot of stuff to do, like very varied stuff, a lot of like different emotions that he goes through. But he just completely sells it. And I like how he goes on his character arc from being this very, very, very much a yes man to by the end of the season, very much being an independent person. Making his own choices, and it was just so good. I just really liked his character arc. And he very much is kind of like the audience character. He's someone that we want to see succeed, and he's probably the most morally good person on The Boys because he's the most honest. And I just really liked him as a character.
Yeah, he was really good. And then we have Frenchie, who might have been the most surprising character for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect from him because when you first meet him, he's completely mental. He's completely off the wall, and you're like, what is this character? Because he's just like absolutely mental. He's like a super good mechanic, but he's also super murderous, and he's also like a torturer. Like he has all these modes of torture, and you're like, what is this guy? And then as soon as they introduce the female, that's when his character just turns, and you're like, oh, this is a great character. Like his relationship and his bond with the female is just so unexpected.
Yeah.
It's such a out of the fourth wall, out of the court thing for his character that you really get to see beyond him, and you get to see past this kind of really hard facade that he has, and when he has this just this bond with the female, you really get to see kind of how caring he is, and I enjoyed his character. Like I said, I did not expect to like his character as much as I did, and I think a lot of that does come out with the female as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, that direction they took with his character, making you think that he's one thing, and then introducing a new aspect with the female, and you see a completely different side to him. And I just loved that because it just shows the different levels of his character, and also like his whole interaction with Mother Milk, like that, because obviously they established that the two of them, had a falling out beforehand, and their two scenes were also just really good and very, very funny. Like the amount of times where they're just having a go at each other's throats.
Yeah, like one of my favorite lines actually, and this is when when they're looking for the female when she escapes.
Yeah.
And he just goes, and he pulls the plan out. He goes, "Oh, how far up your ass did you have to pull up that plan?" He goes, "I don't know. How far does your tongue go?" Brilliant line. Like the dialogue in this is just so funny, and it's just like it's a line like that where you get to see like not only how funny it is, but it's how darkly funny it is. And yeah, their relationship was very funny as well because, like you say, you do see they have a bit of beef there. There's a bit of tension between them, and the way they kind of they're just kind of forced to work together. It is really interesting. And then Mother's Milk as well, I really liked. he kind of remind me a bit of like Terry Crews, his
Yeah.
performance a little bit. Not full on comedic Brooklyn Nine-Nine Terry Crews, but still Terry Crews nonetheless. He's kind of more the conscience of the team. Even sometimes more so than Huey, because he actually has a family now. He has a wife, he has a daughter. And it's really cool to see that aspect of it, because he's kind of completely moved away from the boys now. He is like working in a prison. And it's really interesting because he has completely moved away from that. He's completely cut off his ties with them. You learn that he cut off his ties with Billy. And then as soon as Billy shows up again, like, you can see how reluctant he is to join in.
Yeah.
He's like, I left that. I don't want to do that ever again. And then as soon as he gets roped in, you can just see like the constant regret on his face. But as soon as he's roped in, and that's it. So I liked him a lot as well. So the Seven, or the B-Tech Justice League.
You mean better? You mean better than the Justice League? I mean, as far as the films are concerned, yeah.
This reminded me of the like you see like those foreign discount toys of like.
Oh yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. You get you have all these like really weird twisted versions of the Justice League. So let's just go through all these. So like Starlight is kind of like the main. She's like the main member of them for the audience. We meet her before she joins the Seven. And again, she's the only character in the show that is actually good. She's the only one who actually has really a moral center. She is incredibly naive. All she wants to do is to fight crime and be a superhero, and like her dream is to become, a part of the Seven. So when it finally happens, she's ecstatic about it. And then as soon as she arrives,
she's instantly like, nope.
Yep, because of the Deep. But yeah, I really loved her. Now, I was really curious because I really recognized the actress. She was in Jessica Jones. That's where I know her from.
Yeah.
She was Hope in season 1 of Jessica Jones. But she was really good. Again, really likable. And given the fact of what this character is supposed to be, I think that was really great casting on their part. Getting someone who kind of comes across as extremely naive and extremely interesting in that way. And really, again, just attainable. That's why she works so well with Jack Quaid. I think that them two together are really good. But even just on their own, especially with Starlight, like seeing her journey throughout this.
Yeah, and become like this really strong female character was just really cool as well.
Yeah.
And just how she takes a stance for herself, and she, because she kind of realizes the facade that is the Seven, and she decides, what, I'm going to use this platform, and I'm going to use it, to not just to better myself, but also to better the position of women. And I just they sent out the right message, and they did it in such a good way. It didn't feel ham-fisted. It didn't feel like it was forced on you. It felt like a natural part of the character's progression.
Yeah.
And it was just really well done. And I really liked her as a character, because I've seen a few people like in reviews say she was like one of the weakest parts. I personally wouldn't say that at all. I really liked her character and her story and her relationship as well with Huey.
Yeah, I thought she was fantastic. And then leading into the Deep, the rip-off Aquaman. I like the fact that all these characters, are obviously basically DC characters for the most part. And, you see, like, the Deep, who's supposed to be Aquaman, and the way he's just a joke, like, just like Aquaman was for a long time. I think that's very, very, very funny. But the Deep's interesting, because he's the first kind of member you interact with. You're physically repulsed by him as soon as you meet him, due to the fact that he has the initiation process with Starlight, requiring her to give him a blowjob in order to get through. But then, as the season goes on, he kind of almost becomes sympathetic. Not to a total degree. Like, there is kind of points where things happen to him, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, you kind of deserve this. But then it gets to a point where you're like, damn, like, this guy's going through some stuff. Like, he essentially gets raped by another woman.
His skills get violated.
Like, that was like disgusting to watch. Especially because it really surprised me and took me off guard when he took his shirt off and he had gills. I didn't expect that at all. I thought that was really odd. And then he kind of goes on like this crusade where he like breaks into like the equivalent of SeaWorld and breaks out the dolphin, which the dolphin might be the funniest scene in the entire show for me. where he kidnaps the dolphin, takes it out of SeaWorld, he's talking to it. This dolphin is horny as hell, wants to have sex with the Deep, and it's like she said, oh god, touch it, and then as soon as he breaks, the dolphin goes flying through the window, crashes, and then gets run over by a truck. It's it's the humor, it's so specific, it's so darkly funny. That scene was hysterical for me, the dolphin scene. And then you have the lobster scene as well in the supermarket where he's talking to that lobster.
Oh yeah.
And he's trying his best to save it, and then literally in the space of a second, it's dead. It's just and what I love as well is you hear him talk to all these animals, but you never hear the animal's voice. I love that. I love the fact that you don't hear the animal's voice. It's just you have to get an idea of the conversation they're having. It's very funny. And then it ends up with him shaving his head at the end of the season. I don't know. It's a very different and interesting character, and not what I expected at all.
I'm definitely curious what they're going to do with him in season 2, whether he's going to turn on the Seven or stuff like that. But yeah, he was again another character where they kind of show you this one side of him, and you're like, oh, he's a dickhead, I hate him, and then they slowly give you these layers to his character, and you actually, like you say, sort of become sympathetic in a way towards him. And again, it's just a testament to the writing of this show, and how they're able to write these characters not as two-dimensional people, but really four-dimensional in terms of how they're not just these one notes.
Yeah, it's really, really well done with the Deep, and I think again, because he starts off as a character who you absolutely despise, and then you just kind of end up almost feeling bad for him. That's good writing, and I think that's really well done. Black Noir is a weird one. He is in the show for a few episodes, and he doesn't really do anything. But what I find kind of funny about Black Noir is that he's even the show kind of recognizes the fact that they have nothing to do with him, because there's that scene when Anthony Starr has everyone in the boardroom. I think he has A-Train and Starlight and Maeve. He has them all in there. Black Noir's in there as well, and he says, right, I have something to say to you, and then he goes, but not you, Black Noir, you're perfect. And Black Noir's just sat because what I find funny about Black Noir is that you never see his face. He always has his mask on the entire time, and you never hear his voice either. So as soon as Homelander says that to him, you can just almost imagine him just going haha. He's just sat there all proud of himself. So yeah, Black Noir, there's really not much to say about him. We don't know much about him. I really want to see more of him in season 2.
Well, I during the meantime, I've actually read up on the comics, so I actually know a lot about Black Noir. I won't spoil it for the sakes of you, but all I can say is they'll prop on from what the showrunners have said as well. Oh, for fuck's sake, do not do this.
Oh no, it's his computer crashing.
Fucking stupid thing. Yeah, I was just going to say before my stupid mic cut out again.
It didn't cut out.
Didn't it? What?
No, this is all recorded. It was still going.
Oh, for fuck's sake. My thing just completely cut out. What I was just saying was Black Noir, because I've read the comics, there is a lot they're probably going to do with him in season 2, in regards to his identity. So yeah. I reckon that we're probably going to delve a lot more into that. And I feel with them kind of not giving him anything, I can't really list it as a negative, because I think that they've deliberately done it on purpose. They've done it on purpose with the whole mask and the fact that he doesn't speak.
Yeah,
for me,
every time he shows up, it's not like it's a thing where his character's around and has nothing to do. His character shows up every now and then, and it's there for a joke purpose. So it's clearly intentional. Clearly they're aware, because like I say, he's not just wasted space. He's not just there, as a filler character. He comes in every now and then as a punchline. So I think it's very, very intentional. And again, they're just making people aware of the character, and they're getting them interested in the character, so that when we do get to season 2, if they are going to do anything with him, then that position's open for them.
Yeah, but no. Yeah, it was cool. It was funny that they used him for a joke, but yeah, I reckon they're going to delve a lot more into him. Like I say, in season 2, based on what I know from the comics.
Yeah, and then we also have A-Train. A-Train being
the Flash.
Him being the one who kills Robin, Huey's girlfriend, and that's his motivation. He's the one who Huey's after. A-Train was, again, all these characters are super interesting. A-Train, all he's focused about is being the best. He wants to be the fastest. There's another speedster who's coming up, who's potentially going to be faster than him. And this is where we get the introduction of the drug.
Compound V.
Compound V. Thank God you remembered it, because I couldn't. Compound V, which essentially enhances Super's powers and also gives them powers as well, which we'll get to that in a bit. But A-Train, like, you know, he basically comes out of the gate. Actually, I said the Deep's the first one you meet. Really, it's A-Train is the first one you meet. He runs straight through Robin and just obliterates her all over the place. And that is what basically sets up all of the motivation for the season. And his character, like, he's completely, like, he's so unsorry about the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's just not up for apologizing. He doesn't care. And that kind of gives you a good idea of kind of what these characters are like. You know, he murdered an innocent woman who was just like, you know, as they keep saying in the show, like literally 1 inch off the sidewalk, and he just did not care at all. And I don't think he really ever cares.
No.
And that's fun. But you know, all he cares about is just being the best, pushing himself constantly. And again, he's the one out of all of them who kind of is most focused on building the brand. He's the one who is most focused on, you know, making his popularity known. He has a lot of sponsorship deals. You know, he does like sports shoes and drinks and clothing items and things like that. So he's very, very much focused on all that, and also just doing like public appearances and things like that. And also goes through maybe the most destructive arc of all of them.
Yeah.
Like where he ends up in the season, it's kind of like, you know, 'cause he ends up having a heart attack, and you're like, Jesus. But it's very, very, again, very destructive, his arc. But again, I think it's quite fitting for his character, given where he starts and then where he ends. I did like that. And also, he does deliver, like, there's a really funny scene. You know, we're in the scene with the hospital, where he's visiting the kid in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And the kid's really upset, because he's like, oh, I wanted translucent. He's my favourite. And then he's just like, oh, yeah, well, I'll get him to come next week. And the doctor just goes, no. He's not going to live till next week. Like, really great stuff. But yeah, I did like A-Train. Again, obviously, straight rip-off of The Flash. But I think he's just very, very, again, very interesting, which I keep using the word interesting, but that's just the way I describe all these characters.
Because they are interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's the way I describe all these characters. Okay, and then there's kind of 2 others which, actually, speaking of that, I would say were the less interesting ones. Translucent, he is kind of I wouldn't say plot device, but he doesn't serve much of a function outside of his main interaction with the boys. He's the one who kind of goes after Huey after he breaks into Vought, and then he gets captured by Billy, and then he's held hostage for a bit, and then Huey kills him. I mean, we don't really see Translucent, literally. But he's, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about Translucent, honestly.
No, I mean, like you say, I understand that, like, maybe people saying that, you know, he was only there so that Huey could kill him, so, you know, he could begin his character arc, but I still enjoyed him nevertheless, because he's kind of, you know, he's the first of the, you know, the 7 that we get to take down.
Yeah.
And
he's a perv.
And he's a perv, yeah. Like, nude fucking perv. Like, I did not need that front throat.
That makes me laugh about his powers, the way he's like, because he doesn't turn invisible, like his skin like reflects light basically, so he has to be completely naked to do it. And like it's just the way that you have that scene where he's just hiding in the girls' toilets all the time. It's really funny because there's always like this perception where if you say, oh, what superpower would you love, and if you say invisibility, everyone's like, oh, you perv. So I kind of enjoyed they played on that. It's quite funny.
No, I didn't like dislike him, but yeah. He was obviously like the least developed, but that was because, you know, he was killed off first and had the least amount of screen time. So, you know, from that aspect, maybe disappointing, but I think he served his purpose to the story. And in hindsight, I don't really see it as like an overall negative. It's not something where I look at it, it's like, all right, that's just bad. Like, I just didn't really care.
Yeah, he's a bit.
Also, the fact that they stuck a ball up his arse to kill him was fantastic.
Yeah, very, very smart, very resourceful. I was very, very pleased with that because I was like, there's so many shows and movies, situations where it's like, just stick it up the arse. Like, it solves all your problems. And I like the fact in this show, they just do it. I like it. And then, like, Maeve was the other one where I was a bit like she doesn't get much to do, really, in the season.
How dare you say such a thing?
Obviously, she gets an amazing scene by the end. But for the most part, I kind of felt like her character was again, one of the more weaker ones of the 7. She's, you know, like the Wonder Woman ripoff. I thought like I like the actress, I like the performance, I liked obviously the relationship with Homelander, but beyond that, I don't know, she just didn't really do anything that spectacular again until the plane scene that really made me think, oh yeah, this character is, you know, among the ranks of the best.
Well, yeah. I'd say from that point onwards, yeah.
Like, it really takes up into that plane scene. Because like I say, she really isn't in it that much until the plane scene. And then after that, she gets quite a big push in the last couple of episodes. So I think in season 2, we'll probably see her, a fair bit more. But now...
The main attraction.
The main event of the whole show. Anthony Starr as Homelander. What a performance.
This man is just the best. Like, he is the MVP of this entire show.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Absolutely. He is just electric in this. His performance is incredibly subtle, but at other times extremely outlandish. And it's that perfect blend of the two that make this performance so memorable. Like, I mean, obviously, we all love him as Lucas Hood, but when you see him here, it's just, oh my god. What he does with this character is unreal. The way he's able to play it is just, it's so memorable because his character is such an arse. And, like, because what I like about him at first is when you first meet him, even within the 7, everyone's like, oh, he's a saint. Like, he's kind of pitched as the good one. This is like the Superman. And then, like, you're like, oh my god, this guy. Like, everything he does, like, he's giving, like, Compound V to terrorists to make supervillains that he can fight to make himself look better, and he's, like, completely manipulated by all of it. He's just an absolute dick, and I just love every minute of it, and Anthony Starr completely just sells it. I'm so happy that this guy is getting the recognition for this. He's so brilliant in this role, and by far the standout of the entire season.
Yeah, I loved him in this role, and I liked it as well that even with him being so diabolical and such an arsehole, you still somehow managed to care about his character with the whole, when he finds out about the whole Becca situation, he finds out that, she had a kid and stuff like that, and you can sort of, like, you see that bit of, like, humanity with him, and you could sort of understand where he's coming from, especially, like, with the whole, like, Stillwell and Vocal Born plot line where, he finds out about, like, his kid and all the lies and things like that. They just managed to put those elements of humanity in him as well. And like you say, he very much, like, he has so much fun with this role, but then he also knows when to be intimidating as well. And, like, he was so good in those scenes. Like, there's 3 in particular. The plane scene, the scene where he kind of confronts Starlight when he gets the photos of the 7 from Mesmer, and then the finale when he's having that conversation with the Stillwell.
Yeah.
Like, just before he kills her. Like, those 3 scenes, like, it had me, like, shitting myself because he was so good in those scenes. Like, just in terms of, like, his presence, and because it's a scary thing to think about because he's virtually unstoppable. Like, there is nothing that can stop this man. And the only thing that is preventing him from, like, going out and destroying the world and conquering it is the fact that, Stillwell's pulling the strings, and then, like, he's just such an intriguing character to think about, and just the performance as well from Anthony. It's just so brilliant. Like, it's just so good. And like I say, I hope that from this, he can get more roles after this, and he'll get the recognition that, he didn't manage to get in Banshee. I'm so happy.
Me too. I'm so happy just seeing him not only just deliver another groundbreaking performance, but just seeing him actually get some love is fantastic. Like I say, his character's scary in this. Like, there are so many scenes where I'm just, like, absolutely intimidated by him. Especially
he's like
it's like
he's
the
like
scene,
the
like
better...
you say, where he's with Stillwell and Billy in Stillwell's house. That scene is just, like, really scary, especially where it ends, where, like, he completely just melts Stillwell's face off. Like, you could just see the lengths this guy goes to. And yet, somehow, there are moments where you almost feel sympathetic for him. Like, when you find out about his origin, he was just, like, a test tube baby who, never had any real,
mother or relationships, or he doesn't really know anything human because he spent his whole life in isolation or in a test tube. Yeah. So you kind of look at it from that point. It's like, you can kind of see why he's so alien in a lot of ways in the way that he acts and, his motivations. But no, it's just such an intriguing character, like just what they did with him.
Yeah, because I like the fact that obviously they really established this kind of like mother-son relationship between him and Stillwell, and then they kind of compare it to a dog, where they say, you raise a dog without its mother, and it kind of just becomes evil and spiteful, and that's exactly what Homelander is. And he finally has this kind of motherly figure with Stillwell, but he doesn't understand what a mother-son relationship is, and he kind of confuses it with affection and borderline love. So you almost have this really strange relationship between the two because he, as a character, doesn't understand the difference. And again, that's really intriguing, and just adds so much depth and so much levels to his character, which again just make him so much better.
I saw a really great comment on YouTube about Homelander. Basically said he's basically a better version of the kid from Brightburn.
Oh, he absolutely is. Like, I mean, Brightburn is absolute hot trash, but this is exactly what Brightburn, like the character from that, should have been. Because I thought that myself. I thought, like, yeah, this is like exactly. Especially there's the scene where he goes out to the terrorists and he just burns them all. Like, that reminded me kind of like Brightburn, and I was like, oh, right, okay, well, that's what this should have been then. Oh, that's what Brightburn should have been. And it's just like, it's kind of sad when you look at Brightburn, which had so much potential and was just absolutely terrible, laughably funny at times. And you look at this, and you're just like, this is how well it could have been done. Yeah, just Anthony Starr, absolute MVP. Absolute MVP of this. I just loved him. And speaking of Stillwell, that's another character who I thought was fantastic in this. She purely kind of represents Vought. She kind of represents, all of the cooperation behind the soups and stuff like that. And her performance was great. Like, the way she kind of has a hard face on the entire time, and then you finally, get that moment where she confesses that she's absolutely terrified of Homelander. It felt very real to me, and I can't remember the actress's name. Is it Elizabeth Shue? I think.
Yeah, Elizabeth Shue. Yeah.
Yeah, she was fantastic. Really well cast. Delivered an amazing performance, and again, her character was super interesting because all she cares about is obviously like her brand with Vought, and everything that goes wrong in this is covered up by her. She's the one who's completely pulling the strings. She has the the face in front of all of it, and I think that she really sold that cooperation side of it extremely well.
Yeah, and I like the fact that how she kind of everything she does to kind of make herself seem like she's a caring person. It's all just an act. Like, he has that great, like, Homelander has the really good line in the finale where it's like, you care about that baby more than you do me. But then when you think about it as well, the baby in a way is just a facade because all she really cares about is just the money and the revenue and getting the higher up job at Vought because she's offered it in the finale. And you can tell that that's all she's working towards. Like, she doesn't care about anything else. Everything else is just a tool for her to get there. But like you say, when you just get those moments where you realize just how scared she is, it's just so good. Like, such a really good character. And it was really cool because I didn't really know what they were going to do with her when I watched the first episode. I was like, what are they going to do with this? But then they just made her probably one of the most like complex characters on the show. And also, in a way, you could kind of call her the main antagonist. I don't really know. I guess you could call the overall.
Well, she's the one who's pulling the strings on everything. I mean,
Homelander
does kind of break out towards the end. Like, he does kind of break off into like his own kind of thing, but for the most part, I'd say she's the main force behind it all. And again, she's very she's quite scary in a very subtle way. Unlike Homelander, who you're just terrified of him just because of the concept. You kind of look at her and she feels like a very real threat because, again, of the way this show pitches the cooperation things. It's like that is very, very real in today's society. So you look at that and you go, yeah, she's pretty terrifying as well. And the way she's constantly going after, like, the storyline with, like, the military, where she's trying to get the soups in the military, like, that felt really real to me as well, because I was like, if superheroes existed in this world, they would so try to be militarized. They would totally be militarized. Like, it's just, I never thought of that before, but I was like, that is so true. That would totally happen. Like, especially, like, in countries like America and here in the UK, where we have, some of the biggest militaries in the world, that would totally happen. They'd totally try and get things like that in the military. And it's just
definitely.
It just rang really true to me. And, the fact that, like, Homelander was creating terrorists by giving them Compound V,
and then also when you put that as well and you find out, obviously, he was getting A-Train to deliver it, and it kind of, it puts the whole, that like you say, the opening of the show, puts you in the perspective because you realise that's why, he was running around with all them bags because he was shipping all the Compound V out to all those terrorists. And again, it was just such an interesting way of paying off something that had been set off beforehand. and it makes you kind of look back at that scene in a completely different light because you now understand why he was on it and why he was like, oh yeah, can't stop. Like it's just so good, like just so well thought out, the whole storyline, and also what that means for season 2 in terms of, obviously now the fact that there's soups in all around the world, and trying to get soups as a part of the military. Like it's just so good, and just they do such a good job of obviously with the storyline this season, but also just planting the seeds for storylines for future seasons. It's just I just loved it so much.
Yeah, because it really showed how manipulative like Homelander and Sitwell were, because it's just like you see that, and it's just they're really struggling to get this military contract through, and then eventually it just results. Homelander basically feels like he's forced to go and create his own super terrorists so that the military have no choice but to get supers in, because they're the only people who can fight him. Like again, it just shows again that corporation side, the manipulation side of it, and how Stillwell is just like completely pulling the strings and everything and just manipulating it all. It's fantastic. And I'm very excited. I think that will be a big storyline in season 2. I think that is going to be a big thing. At least for the a storyline for the soups, at least. We're going to see how that goes down. And yeah, I love everything about that storyline. I just think it's great because again, it rang really true to me. And then I think like another thing is just like that plane scene. It's just like, it's terrifying. It's absolutely gut punching. You have this moment where, as you said, they have so many moments throughout this where they look heroic because it's all staged. And then you have this moment where this plane's coming down where they are actually forced to step into this situation and actually be heroes. And Homelander just, like, he knows that nothing can happen. He knows he's not going to be able to do it, even though he probably could. He makes up all these lies about how he can't do it and things like that. And he just leaves all these people after, being on there, being the symbol of hope, telling everyone that he's going to get them, he's going to rescue them all. And then he just doesn't. He just flies off and leaves them, and just leaves the entire crew to die. And he's even willing to leave Maeve there to die as well. Like Maeve's on that plane as well. She's, this is where Maeve gets interesting because she starts to have her conflicted moment there, and she desperately wants to actually try and, get the people off the plane, and then eventually she has to make the decision that I'm not dying with these people. I'm off. Like, it's just like it's crazy that scene.
Yeah, it's just so mental as well. The weird thing is that's a pretty extreme scene, but it's still that is so tame compared to the comics. Because in the comics, like in that scene, instead of it being like a random plane, they instead it's kind of like a flashback, and it's what was it? It's one of the planes from 9/11 that they have to go and save, and then they bail out on it. Yeah.
Oh God.
Like that's how dark it is in the comics. Like, you think the show is like quite goes some places? Trust me, the comics are far worse.
Yeah, I've heard the comics. Like, I know the scene in the comics where Starlight is obviously initiated by the Deep. She actually has to go through everyone, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know the 9/11 thing though. That's pretty. I heard there's a scene that Amazon forced them to take out. I don't know. Do you know what that scene was? I'm wondering if it was that, because I imagine that they wouldn't want something like that.
Yeah, I don't
imagine there's a lot of things from the comics they wouldn't want in the show.
I can't. I mean, yeah, there's quite a few, but I don't know if like any particular one, because I haven't seen the news story. So
yeah, I did read into it. I'll have to have a look at it, but yeah, I did read it. There's like one scene that was going to be in the show, but Amazon like specifically asked them to remove it. I'll have to have a look into it afterwards, but yeah, that scene was just so well done, and again, a perfect display for Anthony Starr's performance there. Kind of his turn, because he's there being all hopeful and just basically just being a dick because he knows he's not going to save these people, and then as soon as like they all start rushing towards him, he's shouting at them, telling them to get back, and he lights up his eyes and he starts like he's about to start killing them basically. It's just and then you have that like real like sickening moment where they're on the beach and Maeve like sees the little doll from the girl who she was going to save, especially because I actually thought that Maeve was going to save that girl and her mum. I actually thought that was going to happen, but when she doesn't, and then you see, basically just what remains, that really hit me. And it's the way you have Homelander on the beach, just acting, super upset that he couldn't do anything, and he tried so hard.
Yeah, like, yeah, it was just, it was just such a mental scene as well. But like you said, the performance by Anthony Starr throughout, though, like he goes from like incredibly sympathetic, and you can tell it's all an act, and then when he lashes out against the passengers, he's like, "I'll laser every one of you," like fucking hell, that had me chills down my spine. And then that whole scene on the beach where he's given that really fake, passionate speech, like it's so good, it's so brilliant, and it's just it just shows how layered of an actor Anthony Starr is. Like, I'm just going to keep on saying this throughout because you all know I am a full-on Anthony Starr fanboy. I will happily admit this right now. Like, we all have our actor that we fanboy over. Yours is Stephen Amell. Mine is Anthony Starr. Like, he's just so good, and like, I just can't get over how impactful that scene was. That was the scene that made me realize, like, shit, this is fucking amazing. Like, this is a really good show. Like, every great show, usually in its season, has like the scene that makes you realize just how good it is. Like, every good show has that, and this had it. It was so great. I mean, there's tons of other scenes as well that were fantastic, but that is the one that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, it really is. Like, it's kind of like the defining scene for the season, I think. Is, when I think back to the season, I mean, there's so many things I remember, but that's the main one that really took me, and will always be in the back of my mind when I think about the show. And I think, honestly, the most interesting storyline that really grabbed me, because again, it really nailed home the themes of the entire show, is the whole storyline with Compound V.
Yeah.
The fact that Vought basically just creates every single superhero that exists. Because in episode 1, you hear, because I thought going into the show there was literally just the 7 and that was it. But then you find out in episode 1, oh no, Vought has all these, like, over 200 superheroes across the country. And at first I was like, that's a lot to just kind of like... I understand if they had, like, just the 7 and, they all kind of got together and all that. But 200, that's a lot for you to, like, get in contact with and control. And then you find out that obviously they created them all. Every single one of them was basically just given powers.
As a kid, yeah.
Yeah, it was just forced upon them.
Yeah, can we also mention as well the baby scene as well?
Oh my god,
where the Butcher uses the baby. Oh my god.
It's the way he was having like little conversations with the baby and stuff like that. I was like, oh, Carl Urban, you're the best. Like, that baby better come back in season 2. He's MVP of the season. But yeah, like, seeing this, like, just lab full of kids that, they're just giving Compound V to, it's just so interesting. And what I like about it as well, it's kind of like X-Men, where, if you have the mutant gene, or in this case, Compound V, you don't know what your powers are. They're just gonna be, there could be something horrific. Like, because, like, the Deep doesn't exactly have nice powers.
No.
Like, with the gills and stuff like that, it's not exactly nice. And then you have, like, Starlight, who, all her mother wanted was for her to be a star and to be successful, and then she got kind of very flashy powers. But, it could have gone a completely different way. And, like, Starlight, her story with, like, her mum doing that and things like that, and then, like, as soon as, her dad walking out, and then you find out why her dad walked out, like, that was really good. And the way it tied into that was really interesting. And just the fact that they had all these people and they just created all of them, I thought that was, again, very, 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 very interesting for this.
Yeah, they're very much so, because I just thought to myself, like how are superheroes created in this world? Like, are they just born with it, or is it just manufactured? But the way that they revealed it and the implications it had for certain characters, like you say, especially with Starlight and her mother and her whole family, that was just really cool and really interesting. And it's just also because it totally makes sense, like you said, with the whole thing that Vought has all these superheroes. It's like, well, how do they keep in contact with all of them? Yeah, it's just so good. Like, just a really good twist to the story. Because, like I say, I just fully expected it to just be this thing where, like, it's like, oh, you're either born as a superhero or you're not. Like, it depends. Like, it was just really, really, like, just a different way to take it, rather than just, like, your normal path where it's just, oh, you're either giving it or you're not.
Yeah. And again, it really reinforces this idea I keep bringing up of, like, the cooperation, Vought, behind it all, that, they really have honed in on this idea of superheroes make money. And they were like, right, we're going to create them all then. They can just, like, they don't have to wait for anything to happen. They will never be out of supply of superheroes because they'll always have, just a new one that they can breed at any point. It's so well handled. And just, again, it's a bit of story that is so real, so timely, and works so well for a show like this. And really nails home all of its themes. And that, for me, was the most interesting part of all of it. especially because again that kind of leads into the sympathetic side of Homelander a bit, and his story. So it's all tied together. It all ties up super well. It's all really neat, and it's just good storytelling. It's really good storytelling, and I think that the overall story, when you put all these elements together, it just creates such a brilliant show.
Yeah.
With incredible characters, a great script. It's funny. It's incredibly violent at times. Well, most of the time. Wow. I honestly, I have not loved a show like this for a while.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I found a show like this.
The only new show that I've watched since Banshee finished that's like made me kind of feel similar way to how I feel about The Boys is probably Altered Carbon.
Yeah, Altered Carbon's really good.
Yeah, but with The Boys, like it's just
Where's
like I say,
that, by the way.
Altered Carbon. I have no idea because
it's happening, but it's like...
I don't even know if they're filming. Like I've honestly got no clue. I mean, I would assume they would have took filming before Falcon Winter Soldier because they need to do that. So I honestly don't have a clue. I really do not know.
Come on, Netflix.
Go on, Netflix. Put your finger out your arse, please.
You've cancelled 4 of your best shows. Come
on. Please give us season 2. Give us season 2 of the only show I care about anymore.
Yeah.
On your fucking platform.
Or just retract it all. Give us season 4 of Daredevil. Be all good.
Yeah. And also
season
can you give us a?
Fist.
Yeah. I need to know what happened with those. How we got the Iron Fist back.
Yeah. I tried to get that information out of Finn. He didn't give it to me.
He didn't give it to you.
No.
That means we're getting to season 3, boys.
It's happening.
YouTube originals.
Coming soon to YouTube Red. Oh no.
Oh my god. Imagine if that did happen. It's just like fucking...
be another season of Cobra Kai.
What do you mean? Cobra Kai's good.
Apparently it is. I've never seen it.
Yeah, Cobra Kai's amazing, man.
Yeah, but anyway. Just such a brilliant show. Again, I've not seen a show that I've loved this much in a while, that I've connected with this much. Like I say, the last show I watched really that I really got into like this was probably Jack Ryan, and that was September of last year. It's so well written, it's so well told, it's so well performed across the board. There's not a weak performance among here. It's just a thrill ride from start to finish. You'll be so engaged with it, you'll be so locked in. And again, if you're into it, if you are on board with it, you will be on board with it the entire way through, and you'll be so engaged with it. Yeah.
I really loved this. Like, for me, rating wise, I would honestly just give this 10 because there wasn't really anything I could think of that detracted from it, and it's just I was so engaged from start to end, and I just can't say that for any other TV show from this year that I've enjoyed. Even with like something like Stranger Things season 3. That like I still thought was really good. I just was nowhere near as engaged with that as I was with something like this with The Boys. And it was just the engagement was to another level because it was so well paced. I loved the characters, I loved the setting, I loved the storyline, the performances, everything was about it was just fantastic. And yeah, I reckon come the end of the year, this will probably be my favorite TV show of 2019. Undoubtedly, like unless Arrow pulls off something absolutely ridiculous with the episodes of the final season that we have airing this year, I don't think anything's going to beat this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, unless they have Adrian Chase in the entire season. Just
if the whole season is Adrian Chase and Oliver and Black Siren, then maybe, but I really don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, I reckon the boys will take the W.
Yeah, I definitely believe that The Boys will end up being my favourite show of the year. I mean, I don't really know of like many other shows coming out this year that are really going to even come close. I mean, I'm really excited for Wu Assassins, which comes out today. But I mean, I have no anticipation of that actually being good. And I think Jack Ryan season 2 comes out this year as well.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, which again, I'm a big fan of that, so I do like that. And again, obviously with Arrow being my personal favourite show of all time, that will still probably take it, but just because it's the final season and Adrian is in it
but you're not getting all this year though, so
yeah, true. But I definitely give The Boys a 10 out of 10 as well. I don't have a single complaint with it. Like I say, I do feel like there were a couple of members of the Seven who were a bit more, I guess just underdeveloped would be the word. But I feel like again, we've got more seasons to go, we've got more stories to go. This isn't like a movie where you can say, oh well, it was 2 hours in and done. and there wasn't really much room for development. Like with here, we know we're getting a season 2. It's filming right now. You know, there's room to grow there, so I'm not going to hold that against it. I think it's a 10 out of 10. You know, come for the violence, come for the story, come for the script, stay for Anthony Starr's performance, and then after you're done with this, go watch Banshee.
Yeah, please. If I can ask you to do anything after you've watched this, just watch Banshee, please. Just give that show the support it needs.
Absolutely.
Like,
is it on any streaming services here in the UK? I don't think it is it?
I don't think it is. In America, I'm pretty sure if you have Amazon Prime in America, you get season 1 and 2 of Banshee included with it in America.
So get on it.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you've seen The Boys and you live in the US, please go ahead and check out the first 2 seasons and then buy seasons 3 and 4 because I don't want you. You'll want to, and I don't want you fucking streaming that shit online for free illegally. You know, give the show the money it deserves.
Yeah. And it's the type of show that you'll want to rewatch, and it's also just, especially Banshee as a show for me, it gets better with each season.
Yep.
Like I don't know which season you prefer out of 3 and 4.
To be honest, it's a close call between 3 and 4 because both for different reasons. But yeah. I probably say 4 just because I love how they wrapped everything up.
Yeah, like for me, like I think each season just gets better and better, and then season 4 was like the perfect wrap up for me, like with the characters and all that. So yeah. I mean, we, as you can tell, we are trailing off talking about Banshee, but just go watch Banshee after you watch The Boys. That's all I can say. You know, make sure watch The Boys, have fun with it, but then go for the real meat and potatoes, which is Banshee.
Yeah.
But anyway, have you guys seen The Boys? If you have, make sure you let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like the show? Did you hate it? What did you think about it? Let us know all your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to see more movie videos, TV videos, related videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload from me. And also I want to thank Dan for coming on and joining us for this spoiler talk of The Boys.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for having me. Like I say, everyone, if you've watched The Boys, watch Banshee. If you've already seen it, go watch it again.
Exactly. And with that final word, I hope to see you guys again next time.
See you. Banshee forever.
Love Banshee for life. #WooAssassins.